All right, well then, I will call the meeting to order. And we'll start with just a moment, if you would join me to reflect a little on what we know and what we can do during the hour we have at hand. While we're convening here today, some of us from the comfort of our own homes, we know we have many fellow countyans who are fighting the fight of their lives in hospitals around the region and in our county. Some of them ill, others healthcare providers who have never seen anything like what they're seeing today and in the days to come. And I think as the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee, we ought to reflect on that reality in our environment, just to hold those folks in our hearts as we do the best we can with what we have in front of us during the hour to come. So if you would just join me in praying for a moment of silence. Thank you. Amen. And I will just share my screen here. And if you would join me with a moment here to honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Awesome. Next item is to determine the essential function for today's meeting. And I would like to also put that together with approving our agenda. They are tied. The agenda items dictate, whether we are discussing essential business. I want to make one minor adjustment and move our superintendents of schools to the top. They both have a call that they need to be on, a statewide superintendent's call, and neither of them have a lot of business today, just brief updates. So that's the only minor adjustment I'd like to make to the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as well as endorse the essential functions of county government for this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Davenport, and then seconded by Commissioner Williams. Thank you. I'll do a roll call. I'm not ready for this. Hold on a second. Davenport?
Yes.
Edens? Wheeler?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
And Jones, yes. Okay, great. And so we move to item number 4, which is the approval of October's minutes. And I have one minor change. Item 3, we discussed updating the current building codes in our last meeting. But what we asked in terms of a motion was to create a resolution that would provide notice of the updated codes rather than actually updating the codes. It might be good for us to make that minor change in the language from our minutes. I don't have any other changes. Does anybody else have any other changes to the minutes from October? Actually, it's November's minutes. I apologize. And that makes me also notice that it says October at the top, which needs to be changed to November.
Move to approve with those changes.
Thank you. Commissioner Wheeler's made a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Davenport seconds. And so we'll just do a roll call since it's just as easy. Davenport?
Yes.
Edens? Wheeler?
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Jones. Yes. Okay. And so quickly, we'll move to updates from our superintendents of schools. We'll start with Dr. Flannery, if you wouldn't mind to let us know what's going on.
All right, thank you, Chairman Jones. As of about 9 minutes ago, we've got 226 people quarantined and 31 active COVID cases, which is way, way down from where we were in October. We had over 1,000 quarantined. We seem to be hung right in that 200 to 250 level on quarantines. Plateau there. I don't know if I should be grateful or anxious about that, but it is way down, and I think the cause is because we went fully virtual. We will be virtual through the first week of January, at which time we're working on a plan to bring back our K through 4 students in a staggered schedule. We don't think, given what's happening in the community, that we dare bring back 100% of our enrollment because we simply cannot socially distance them effectively. That's enough on the health and welfare side. Chairman Jones, at one point we discussed the possibility that HEW might want us to present capital needs in a different manner than we had heretofore been doing. I'm wondering if any progress had been made on some new plan or protocol, because I'm going to have some needs for you in January.
I'm glad you asked. And I have had some really good conversations with Mr. Day, the school board chair, in the last week or two. And let me circle back to you as we talk more and think more about that process.
That'd be great. And with that, I am going to jump over to the study council meeting. And Steve, I'll see you over there.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Dr. Barnett.
Good to see everyone. I don't have a lot today. We are midweek of end of course exams for high school students. It's going pretty well. We're getting between 80 to 85% of our students are coming in and doing that assessment. We're on a hybrid at Liberty Bell, which is Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday for our students, due to spread of COVID in those student populations. Our pre-K 6 is still in person, except for about our around 18% that chose remote. So we're working still off that model, doing contact tracing. I think some information from the State Health Department today probably will help us be a lot more timely as a state as far as quarantines are concerned, letting families know when the quarantine starts. And so there can be, we've had some problems where the testing goes on and quarantine is beginning at the end of the quarantine period. So I think that'll help. And hopeful that the state is going to seriously look at the new CDC guidance, which will be a 7-day quarantine with an assessment with a test on day 7. If student or staff members clear, then they can come back without symptoms at that point. That'll be a real positive for everybody, I think, if they'll consider that. And that's all I have today.
We appreciate the update. Are there questions from anyone? All right, I'll let you get to your other call. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Excellent. So I'm looking for Representative-elect Alexander. I don't see her yet. Mr. Hicks, do you have an urgent need to get moving? Because I had put the two of you as close to the top as I could. And we can get started on your business immediately if that's the case. If not, we can stall a little bit longer and move another item around until she gets here.
I'm in no hurry whatsoever. We can wait on her, be fine.
Okay. Well, in that case, maybe we can jump down to the county attorney report and work on that for a little bit. And if we need to make a decision to kind of cut back and forth a few times, we can do that as well. I want to be respectful of y'all's time. So Ms. Wilkinson, if you don't mind kicking us off on item 8, we'll hear you on that.
So I don't have a written report.
Oh.
Would you go back to the other schedule? Very good.
She just got here. Thank you for being patient with me.
Sorry, guys.
You made it.
I made it. Sorry.
We're thrilled. You, it sounds like you were hustling from one thing to another, and I appreciate you being here today. So thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, good. So we'll just kick off that item now, which is, you came just in the nick of time, which is item number 5, meeting with our new representatives elect. And they're here with us today. Very exciting. We appreciate it so much. And the goal of inviting you today was just to introduce ourselves, allow you to kind of put faces with names, get a sense of what role we play in your local government, and then certainly, present ourselves as available to you as you go forward and, navigate your roles in the State House. So the 5 of us who comprise the committee are myself as chair, and then Commissioner Wheeler, Commissioner Davenport, Commissioner Williams, who's on the phone today, although I know you all both know her, and Commissioner Danny Edens, who's not with us today. Broadly, the role of the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee is to kind of handle all matters of general education and welfare. And you can see from the agenda today that we have a really wide range or gamut of issues that come through our committee. We talk about schools, we talk about cleaning up properties, both public and private. We interface with our health department, we interface with our libraries. All of those matters and many more come to this committee. And I explained to both of you on the phone as well that this group of 5 has an hour to vet a handful of issues and make some preliminary decisions or recommendations that then go on to usually budget if it's a fiscal decision. Other times it's just a policy decision. If it's a fiscal decision, it goes on to our 5 members of our budget committee, and then eventually on to the full commission for further vetting. And the nice thing about that committee process, which I think mirrors pretty closely the process you all will be implementing at the state level, is that you have the chance in these meetings to do a bit of a deeper dive with a smaller number of folks to vet the issue and then take it to the larger group with some recommendations and ideas. So that's kind of how our committee structures function and sort of what we're up to. I mentioned that schools was one of the things we deal with. In fact, it's probably the biggest thing we deal with. If you look at the whole county's budget, about 40% is allocated to schools in the county, both the county system and the city system. And, schools are not just a big portion of our budget, they're a big portion of our lives. It's pretty easy to think of schools as just a place where kids get educations, but really schools are the epicenter of health and well-being for all the county citizens. They're the place where community is built. And they are the pipeline to a vital workforce in Washington County. So to the extent that you're thinking about investments in workforce and building a strong economic system here, you really have to start with strong schools. So as I've just said, they serve Washington Countyans, schools do, in a wide range of ways, but also having excellent schools attracts others to our region and can be an economic driver in that way as well. So we focus on schools quite a bit in the HEW meetings. I wanted to just show you a couple of things, and then I'm going to open it up to my fellow commissioners to just introduce themselves and add any additional information they think would be helpful to you all. This slide shows you what kinds of school districts we have statewide. When you go to Nashville and meet all the other representatives, they'll all be coming from sort of different sort of circumstances in terms of school systems and makeups. And the brighter blue dots are municipal systems. Washington County has one of these split systems, a municipal system and a county system. And what you can see, and I think this map illustrates it really well, is that there aren't that many counties that have these split scenarios. Only about 30% of the counties in in the state of Tennessee have two systems. And it does make your job more complex because you're having to navigate the different contingencies of two different systems. And it makes it even harder when those two systems are not in good communication. And this is like practically a cave person drawing of how things work in our county. But, you know, the city has ways of getting money for their schools, and then the county gets it through property taxes and also shares those property taxes with the city. And to some extent, that one arrow that goes from the county property taxes over to the city is the only real interaction that the county and the city have. There's a dump of funds. And then, you know, the city school board goes to the city commission to kind of figure out specifically how all of their funds are allocated. And the county school board comes to the county commission to figure out how all of their funds are allocated. But, you know, when you look at the fact that the funds are coming from a shared source and there isn't a coordinated way of discussing sort of the mutual needs of systems, you realize where some of the challenges are in terms of how to navigate all of this. HEW, if you want to think about our committee's role, is sort of located on that little arrow in between the school board and the county commission. We're the committee that the school board comes to vis-a-vis the superintendent to discuss funding that's needed for the school system and make those decisions. Give me just a second here. And I think what you just noticed was that Dr. Barnett was on the call, and we have loved having him attend our meetings. So, and then you also heard me mention that we're starting to coordinate a bit more with the school board. What I'm hoping is that that's starting to show more coordination across these lines than what we have had in the past. And I could talk for a long time about how I think that should happen. To the extent that your home team is playing as a team, right? It makes your job a whole lot easier when you can go to Nashville and advocate for us, you know, with a unified voice behind you. I think that's the direction I would love to see our work go as we work together over the next years. And that's certainly my goal. Okay, so two final points. I think I already made one of them. And then the second one is, let me show you this. This kind of like really, and I'm sure this is none of this, probably new news to you, but anyway, it's what I do. This is 2020 per pupil spending by state. So New York State spends $23,000 per student, and they're the #1 most spendy state in the nation. We're not there yet. Oh, there we are. So, you know, this is kind of a problem And it sort of, at a very basic level, underscores why, we have to kind of scrap it out back at home over money, is just that there isn't much being allocated at the source. So that's certainly something we want to support you all with in your work at the state level. And those are all of my comments. So I would open it up to you all with questions and to my fellow commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Wheeler?
First, I want to thank both of you for meeting with us. I think this is a great way to get this started. We really appreciate your involvement in our work. That's going to be very welcome and a good fresh start. With going back to school funding for just a moment, I did want to mention that is a very complex issue, and I know that you're both interested in learning more about that. And I also realize you've got a whole lot of learning to do. I believe somebody compared it to drinking from a fire hose, and I imagine that is exactly the case. As you get into this in the next few months, I think we would love an opportunity to sit down with you all and with our city counterparts to talk about this. There's certainly multiple ways that funding comes to the school systems, most of those being through the state. There's a very good TASER report that I would refer you to that talks about that recently, that was recently done. And with that, one of our media outlets has been very hyper-focused on one particular funding source, and that being the bonded capital funds. That's only one of a number. And we really need to sit down with our city counterparts and with you all, because this any change would have to come at the state level, to look at school funding across the board, and how we're funded and how these systems that have two school systems in them, counties that have two school systems in them, are affected. Because the best way to approach this, in my opinion, is going to be to get creative and come up with ways that help all our students and don't pit one group of students over another. But when you look at the totality, all the different sources of funding, there's been a lot of information that is just incomplete that's put out there recently. And I know you all will both want to look at the whole situation. And I think that's what's important, that we look at that for all of our students. I'm in a unique, there's several of us that have districts that are split, county and city. And my kids went to city schools. So I have an interest in both systems and want to see them both do well. And I think the first thing we need to do with that is look at what are we funding, how are we funding it, and make sure we're not only treating all our students fairly, but also maximizing the funding we can put into our school system. One of the differences there, I think probably our New York counterparts, one, there's a lot higher cost of living there, and two, I don't doubt for a minute that we're not spending our money more wisely. But at the same time, I think that's not where the focus should be. We need to improve what we're spending on the students, regardless. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davenport?
Hey, again, like Commissioner Wheeler said, thank you both for being here today. Thank you for your willingness to serve our communities. We do appreciate it. And you may have to forgive me here. My terms may be incorrect, but if I understand it, part of the state funding, the amounts that goes to school systems, is the ability to pay. Is that correct? Am I saying that right, Mayor?
From a local perspective, that would be correct, yes.
And, the way I look at that, we have a broad spectrum from people that have the ability to pay and people that don't have the ability to pay. So what you're basically saying is, with the revenues, with your tax base, with your incomes in your area, you're able to pay more taxes
Then some areas, some school systems, maybe a Unicoi County or a Carter County, that's the way I understand that. Well, when you take averages, that doesn't tell the whole story. And your business leaders, and you don't just take an average of something and go across the board with it. Sometimes an average works well, sometimes it doesn't. But if we set our tax base on our average, then we can't do that. We will have people homeless. We'll create more problems than we've ever had if we just set our tax base on average income. It's just not possible because you have so many at the upper end that's swaying that average one way up. So as you go, I would like for the state to look at that and see, is that really the best way and most fair way to allocate the funding from the state? And maybe I'm just completely wrong. And as you learn, or maybe as you know now, I'm questioning for understanding as well, not just questioning how things are done. So maybe you can educate me better on how that money gets allocated from the state, and maybe it's not so much ability to pay. Does question make any sense to you all at all? I may be so far in left field that it's not funny. I spend a lot of time there.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Without a question to me, if it was, then Commissioner Davenport, you're actually 100% on. If you look at a per student expenditure for all the 95 counties in the state, each are completely different. And so the basic, the BEP, the Basic Education Plan formula is a function of county wealth, if you would put it in those terms. So, for example, Johnson County they fund their students from the state at close to $10,000 per student, where Washington County is just slightly over $5,000. So from that perspective, but that's the BEP formula that is very difficult to change, and part of the reason for that is, it's a zero-sum fund from the state. This fund, the state allocates X amount of dollars to this plan, and when you go messing with it, you have counties that are going to be winners and counties that are going to be losers. So it becomes a political quagmire with very few people being happy in the change. And that's, in addition to being extremely complicated, as Commissioner Wheeler mentioned earlier, overall, legislators in general are not very interested in tackling it. So there's also a component that is called fiscal capacity, and so that is where that's a measurement of the local ability to fund from local funds. And so that's where there comes, the big question. And when you read through that task report, it'll define both system capacity as well as total county capacity, fiscal capacity, and how that's different, how it's applied, and how it really impacts the county school system in Washington County in a negative way. But again, being a zero-sum effort, if you change it, it would merely shift dollars from the city to the county, and overall the county would be the loser in dollars. So that's probably a topic for a different day when there's more time to go into it.
I'm learning things on this call. Maybe, Mayor Grandy, we could get that TASA report as a HEW committee, because I know it's just kind of hot off the press and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And also, Ms. Alexander, were you going to add something?
Mayor Grandy answered my question with his response to Commissioner Davenport. I was just wanting to know if Commissioner Davenport was referring to how the BEP is funded.
I hope your brain doesn't explode trying to wrap it around all of this stuff. Other comments? And Commissioner Williams, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, on the education level, I think they're in the Washington County school system pay scale, how it compares to the Johnson City pay scale, certainly is disappointing. And I don't know how at the state level that might be able to be tackled, because keeping the better teachers in the county system, according to Dr. Flannery and others, when they can get a chance to increase their salary, they jump at it, and you don't blame them. So that bothers me. I know several states nearby, particularly like South Carolina, they have a standard teacher pay scale across the state. That's probably a pipe dream for Tennessee, but it certainly has been done other places.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I'd just like to add that it was very encouraging just to see both superintendents, on this Zoom meeting. That was as soon as I got on here, I noticed that. And, I think that's important moving forward. As I know that Representative Alexander and I, start moving forward and start looking at this is going to be something that's going to come up early on. And it's important that there's not a winner and there's not a loser. I think that's going to be a tough task, but as long as we all work together on that, and I think Commissioner Wheeler is right. We all need to sit down together and really tackle this issue to where we're open and we know what's going on. So it was very encouraging to see that today, and it makes me happy to see that. And hopefully, we can get to Nashville. We look forward to working with you guys. We want you to know that we're here and that we will always be here. And if you need anything, that we will be your voice in Nashville. And it makes us proud to be from Washington County. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. We have such a top-notch school system in Johnson City. And I just keep on thinking that we all need to approach this problem as kind of a yes and sort of thing. Like, yes, we can maintain this top-notch program, and we can bring up our county system and just try to balance both sides of that equation.
I agree with what Tim said, as well as what you said, Jody. I think that we will get so much more accomplished if we work together as a unified group. And if Tim and I want one thing for this community, it's just that our county and our cities will be unified. And we can do so much more for you all when that happens. And it just makes our life a lot easier. And not that we always want it easy. We don't. We just want it right. We want it right for our community. And so I want, and I don't have a preference whether it's county or it's city. I love them all. I've got part of my heart in one place and part of my heart in another. And Tim is the same way. And we want the best for everyone. And we're not afraid to tackle a hard project if we need to tackle it. But we do need the skill set to be able to do that. I love Jim Wheeler's idea about us all getting together. We get sworn in January the 12th. I'd love to see us get together before then. I want to be Tim and I both want to be educated and fully knowledgeable when we step through those Capitol doors. And we want to make sure that we have everything we need to be able to do that. And I think that meeting needs to take place sometime this month if we could possibly make that happen.
I would love to help you coordinate that. I think that's certainly something I would be happy to help with. I'm sure others on our committee would be willing to pitch in and help me brainstorm how to do that. So let's follow up right away after this call and kick something off along those lines.
Thank you.
And I know you all don't know exactly how your lives will be when you're in session, but what we'll want to do is establish a way to maintain communication with you, and whether it's some sort of monthly or every other monthly or quarterly check-ins or whatever it is, just know that we want that. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But for now, keep drinking from the fire hose. Small sips. Well, okay, large gulps. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move on. I think we've got that one done. We're back to you, Ms. Wilkinson, County Attorney Report.
Thank you, and thank you for this space on the agenda. I'm bringing to you today, actually, it's rare that I do this, but I'm bringing to you a request, and it's further to a request by our district attorney for the 1st District, General Baldwin. And it concerns some litigation that is currently filed in Sullivan County, commonly known as the Drug Dealer Liability Act lawsuit. And it concerns the legally produced but diverted and addictive drugs that are commonly referred to or generally referred to as opioids. You might hear it called the opioid lawsuit. There's one in federal court. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the one in state court. Without going into the details of the litigation, I'm here with a procedural request. That lawsuit was filed in 2017 under the authority of the district attorney, General Baldwin, who retained the Brandstetter firm in Nashville to recover money for Washington County under Tennessee's Drug Dealer Liability Act, a specific statute. And this would be for the epidemic related to the distribution and use of opioids by citizens that have generated critical issues and problems for Washington County. Of course, Washington County is part of the 1st Judicial District, along with Unicoi, Carter, and Johnson counties. So it's those costs associated with, for example, drug overdose deaths, the birth of drug-dependent babies, rising criminal convictions, illegal sale of opioids, law enforcement related to that have impacted the Washington County expenses and budgets and just policies. So General Baldwin has requested that the legislative body affirm and ratify and demonstrate its support of this lawsuit through a resolution, which the commission has the authority to do under its authority to adopt resolutions with respect to conduct and activity that's detrimental to the health, moral, comfort, safety, and welfare of the citizens and inhabitants of the county. So I'm bringing this request as part of what I do as the county attorney. I do not represent the county in this case. The Brandstetter firm does in Nashville, and it was filed under the authority of the duly elected district attorney, General Baldwin. And so what I would request is that this committee consider a resolution affirming and supporting that lawsuit and ratifying its filing as a procedural matter. As you probably recall from executive sessions, it has been filed since 2017. It's ongoing. I think that there has been a production of more than the millions of pages of paper. I want to say that it was 200 million pages. I mean, there's a significant amount of work that has gone into this litigation. That's a super high level view of this limited procedural aspect, I'm always available to answer any questions you might have as they relate to legal matters. And but I would request that resolution and that it go to the full commission, affirming, supporting, and ratifying the filing of this lawsuit and the action that has been taken thus far on behalf of Washington County as part of the First Judicial District, and approving of it going forward.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Did the generals request specific language in a resolution?
Thank you for asking that. He did include some specific language, and if you saw me looking down when I was talking about the impact to the county, that was actually taken from some suggested language that he sent along. And then I've prepared a resolution in advance of this meeting that I've shared with the Brandstetter firm and General Baldwin to ensure that your act is consistent with the needs and expectations of General Baldwin and the litigation generally. So yes. And your colleagues in Sullivan County, I did do a little research and noticed that it was on their November agenda. And so the second judicial district has adopted a resolution to this effect. Ours has more language because we have a different format, but we will both be using the same language that was suggested by General Baldwin or General Staubus in their case.
I guess my preference would be that we actually see the resolution before we vote on it. And, I'm a little concerned that when this was filed, this goes back before some of us were even on the commission, that the generals took a pretty strong stance that they had the authority to file this without coming to the different legislative bodies they were representing. And there was questions about that, and they took a strong position. They did not need to come to the elected bodies. So one question I have is, why now do they need this? And then two, that's all the more reason that I would think we would want to look at what we're being asked to send on to the commission.
Respectfully, I obviously was not with the county at that time, and that historic knowledge is certainly relevant to what you want to consider. I would ask that I could send you the resolution today because I have gone ahead to prepare it. We're on a very short turnaround for this month's meeting on December 14th. If it would be agreeable to you as a committee to consider the act generally, I wouldn't want to go into anything that could touch on litigation strategy with respect to the motivation behind the request. That's a little probably outside what I would have personal knowledge of anyway. But anything that would touch on the mental impressions of the Brandstetter firm or General Baldwin, I would probably not want to do in a public meeting, but would want to have executive session. This, on the other hand, is procedural. So Commissioner Wheeler has the benefit of legal expertise. And so if we could step away from that and think of the action generally, I wonder if you would consider moving it forward as an idea, and then you could always consider it or disapprove it in the full commission. But given the fact that there have been a number of trial settings, I would just point that to you. That's been in the newspaper. There have been a number of trial settings, and that may have something to do with the timing.
Could we schedule an executive session for our December commission meeting?
Of course, you always can, and that will present, an exciting electronic issue for us. I think that we can go out of the room and do that. Susan Saylor has demonstrated a lot of capacity with technological challenges like that and handling them for us. But I really am suggesting that you separate these two issues as to the motivation for the request, and maybe we could discuss that individually. I'd be available to you at your convenience between now and the full resolution to urge you to at least consider taking the action. And then maybe you would want to speak with General Baldwin himself. I'm sure that might be fruitful for you.
other or comments?
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Does the acceptance of this lawsuit impact our ability in the suit which we're engaged at the federal level?
That's a question for me, Mr. Mayor. The lawsuits are separate. This is a lawsuit that's filed under a Tennessee statute. It's in state court. This is ongoing. This is that same state lawsuit that we've been discussing for some period of time. This is not a new lawsuit. This is affirming what's already happened. So this is asking for the legislative body with its authority to affirm that lawsuit that is ongoing. Big picture, again, not wanting to get into strategies, but no plaintiff in a lawsuit would want to be subject to a defense that said that the lawsuit couldn't go forward. That's just so, this is a procedural issue. The way I look at it is that it's about the lawsuit having the strongest legs on which to stand in this, what may be the final 45 days before it goes to trial.
Thank you.
Would this potentially effectively waive any argument we might have, again, and my knowledge of this comes from representing the town of Jonesboro when this was filed. But the county, also the county attorney was in my office at the time this was filed. Is my recollection, I think I'm correct on that. But the governmental entities weren't consulted. We don't have, I'm the town attorney still, have no idea who the defendants are in this. Don't know what issues have come up with respect to how any proceeds of this litigation will be distributed, what portion will stay under the control of the attorneys general. And I'm concerned about, especially without seeing the language that we're going to use in the resolution, that we could be potentially waiving any right to object to how they decide to distribute the funds. I'm really concerned. Are we agreeing that they represent us? Because up to this point, to my knowledge, the county has never voted on that.
I think that your knowledge is complete on that point. I did not find through review of our files that it had been considered by the commission. The commission did consider in, I think, 2018, a lawsuit to be filed that I think Mayor Grandy was referencing, which is the federal lawsuit. And so in that resolution, authority was given to the mayor to retain counsel to file that action. So I think Commissioner Wheeler is correct that it has not come before you prior to this time. So I'm here with the request, and I'm happy to, it's the will of the decision makers here. If you need more information, then it's my job to get it for you. And if you need it before the next meeting, that's my job to get it for you. And if you don't choose to approve it to move forward, that's within your authority as well. So, that's why I'm here, is to raise this in a public forum for you to express these concerns and to identify what you need to have. And I'm very happy to do that. That's my job. And so I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm carrying the request with just looking at it only procedurally, the authority within it. And generally speaking, I will say that one of the issues that we see, again, this is in the newspaper, and we see sometimes a pull between the state and local governments. What you're describing is a more local issue, which would be the control of the spending between the local government and the judicial district. I think that what I would expect to hear from General Baldwin is that this lawsuit gives the counties more direction in the use of the funds than do settlements through the state. That is the general position that the district's attorney has taken.
representing us in this, I would say we need to hear that from him.
Okay.
And I appreciate your indication that it's your job to get us information, but you're not counsel of record in that action, as far as I know.
You're correct.
If you're not, then I think counsel of record ought to be the one advising us on what the implications are in this in passing this resolution, and what are we ceding control over any funds to the generals as the parties here represented by the law firm. But I just don't know that we should expect you to answer those questions and put you really in the middle, because they are supposedly representing us in this lawsuit. Right. And when I say supposedly, I don't mean anything nefarious by that. I don't fully understand that. That's what I mean by that.
What are the implications of us holding off on this action until January from your knowledge of how this trial is proceeding?
I would say broadly that what I mentioned earlier is that to the extent there was a trial setting prior to the consideration of it, that would not, this procedural action would not have been taken, and that may open a fact dispute at some level, which could be resolved. So I don't think any of it is an end game for the county. And I will tell you, the Brandstetter firm emailed me this morning that they were available for questions. If you had any, I would be happy to loop them in. I don't know that you want to take your committee time doing that, but I do want to extend their offer to be available to you. And General Baldwin is available for the December 14th meeting. He was not available today. And so I really just stepped into the breach to ensure that the request that had been made was carried forward so that it was not a sitting matter. He had reached out earlier on this, and I just wanted to keep it moving and in front of you so that you could advise how you wanted to proceed. So,
Commissioner Wheeler, would you consider it okay process for us to go ahead and support the concept, then have you follow up with General Baldwin and report in at the full commission meeting? No, you'd rather have us take this back to the start point in January and have General Baldwin speak with us in committee? What process would you recommend?
Being a licensed attorney, I'm not going to step in and talk to the attorney of record and then report back to the commission. I'm not comfortable with that from my personal liability standpoint. But if we needed to do it, I'm not sure the town has a board meeting the same night as we've moved our commission meeting to their regular night. I may not be able to be at the whole commission meeting, but I would think from your all standpoint that we'd be better off if we asked them to be at that meeting, available for that meeting. If we have to, she can do I can't remember what they're called on Zoom, but there is another room she can set up to where you could go into executive session. But I think there ought to be some explanation of the purpose for this, why they're doing it, and as our lawyers, they should be willing to tell us I don't mean General Baldwin here. I mean the lawyers for the lawsuit should be able to tell us what are the ramifications of this. What does this mean if we pass this? What control are we potentially giving up here? And Ms. Wilkinson certainly may want to chime in separately from them on that.
Right. Looks like Susan's willing to help us get an executive session set up electronically. So I would like to make a motion that we move forward with, I don't know, I guess I want to make a motion that Ms. Wilkinson prepares the resolution and that we set an executive session for the commission meeting in December with General Baldwin. And so that's a couple of things. Can that all go in one fell swoop motion? Okay.
And I'll second that with the understanding is we're not necessarily recommending one way or the other. We're just getting it in front of the commission, correct?
Right.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other comments or discussion? Okay, then we will go ahead and do a roll call vote. Davenport,
Yes.
Edens, Wheeler,
Yes.
Williams, Jones. Yes. Awesome. Moving right along. Anything else from our county attorney today?
No, thank you. I'm always available to answer questions. I heard you loud and clear about the executive session. I will communicate all of that, place it on the agenda, and with your agreement, I will send you the draft resolution this afternoon so that you can look at it sooner than the packet.
Perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Item number 9 on the agenda is environmental cleanup, and we were going to be considering 7 properties that Ms. Wilkinson diligently got through court a few Fridays ago, which means that a judge has authorized the county to clean up the property, but we don't yet have cost estimates on those properties. So we don't have any business in that area. I had prepared a little bit of content just to discuss the overall environmental cleanup process a bit, but we're going long on time, so I'm going to just hold that material for another meeting. Anyone have any comments on that issue or want to weigh in at all? I assume we'll have, I don't assume, but I would guess we'd have those 7 properties back in January for consideration if those estimates are prepared. Okay, I saw Mr. Griffin. Do we have any updates from the library?
Thank you. I'll be very brief. We are still currently closed, but providing curbside service. We are going to reevaluate mid to late December in conjunction with Johnson City Library. Right now, we have no idea of what the decision on that will be. We are looking at any way we can do to provide as many services to the public as possible. But we are doing pretty good business on curbside and our ebooks and audiobooks that are being downloaded. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any questions for Mr. Griffin? Awesome. Keep it going. We're all going to need a book to cuddle up with in the
I got a bunch of them.
Pandemic winter. Send some audiobooks to these new representatives. They have a lot of long drives in their future.
We'll do that.
Support the library. Get your audiobooks. Okay, you guys need a fast track. We got to work that out for you. Let's see. Any updates from the health department? Mayor Grandy, have we heard if they've hired a new director?
Interview process is complete, and the onboarding process is in place. Should have somebody to present to you at the next meeting.
That's great. And I hope once we have that person in place, we can get that board together again. It's been a while, and I think we're even needing a few replacement members on the board. So we'll just keep going on that. Is there any other business that we need to consider today? Anything I skipped? I have one minor thing. There's quite a bit of business that has kind of accumulated for this committee. I put a few things off today because of time, but I would really love it if we could have a 90-minute meeting in January. I promise I'll keep it to 90 minutes, as I have kept it to an hour the last 2 meetings since I have been your chair. Could Commissioner Davenport, Commissioner Wheeler, are you all okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I don't know what schedule will be that particular day. I can get pulled out, or but And I'm also okay with a call meeting. That we don't. I'm not a big fan of going a couple of hours. You know, I know you're talking 90 minutes. You're not talking 120. I get that.
2 hours is too long.
It is. It is for me to concentrate.
Yeah. 90 minutes is my brain shut off point.
So, you know, I'm 90 is fine, and I'm not opposed to a call.
Okay.
Agree.
You know, I mean, the matter that I would love for us to spend a bit of extra time on is Ms. Ryan's coming to speak with us about some actions in the area of workforce development. That would be a fantastic called meeting. You know, this environmental court cleanup process, I actually made PowerPoint slides to show to you all today. I made little diagrams, all this stuff. So great. I'm really a little sad that I didn't get to show it to you, but so we could do, you know, maybe we could do an hour called meeting and split it halfsies on those two issues. Just clean that stuff up, because that environmental court process and some of those decisions are kind of doozies for just our regular meeting. So here's the Christmas news. We're going to get to have a special meeting with our new representatives. We're going to get to have a special called meeting as a HEW group. It's going to be great. We're going to be spending so much quality time. I just wish that it was in person and there were cookies.
Yeah, that would help. I think the called meeting with Lottie is a really good idea, because we can spend whatever amount of time we need. And
yes.
That is one of our top 3 priorities. I think
that's right. That's right. And I would actually go ahead and make sure the full commission was aware of that meeting, because it would really function more like a
workshop.
I didn't say it. You said it. Okay.
We knew what you were trying to do.
Anything but say the evil W word. All right. Well,
can I ask
yes,
you,
ma'am.
Is that something you would want Tim and I at? Because workforce development is very important to both of us.
Music to my ears. We would love to have you, and I will be sure to include you on the invite. We, as a committee.
When is that meeting?
We don't have it set yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to just be in our regular HEW meeting. And what I was just saying was that we were just running out of time in these meetings. So setting aside some of those non-decision making meetings where it's more just knowledge base and thought provoking is what we're talking about doing. As a commission, when we first all came in, we had a retreat and identified 3 priority areas that we've been working toward. One is water and fire services, and developing a long-term plan to make sure that that's established. The other is internal and external communications, which is why we have Ms. Saylor on the call today, and in part. And then the other one is workforce development. And, you know, we've been stop and start on some of these because of COVID. Just as we were getting off the ground with some of our action items, that's when, you know, all of the things happened. So in any case, that would be a great use of our time. And you all can expect to hear from me on some dates, some possible dates for that. That's all I have. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment unless there's anything else.
So,
do we need a second on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.